Thinking of that aspect, the discussion came down to that, when tomorrow you guys would move out to the organizations, and when you'll be playing your part as HRs across, one very essential area that we look at is policy management and policy creation. So first, ideally, is your creation step, and then you get into the management part of it. So not everybody, when moves into from a campus to a to a profile of HR in a company, you would be given that fancy job of starting to pin down policies and write policies. But then, however, this is one of the areas that if you are very passionate of and would want to get into an area where you would want to develop processes, develop policies around the organization, then what are we going to cover today is going to be very essential. So you can always do a review on your own with your organization head and understand that what essentially are the policies that are existent, understand what which are missing, and then possibly think of creating those one with the help of few guidelines that will be throwing today. So I'll quickly share my screen. Excuse me. So when I talk about creation of policies, what I'm looking at is, uh, you know, why do we need a policy? Anybody from the group would like to attempt? Why do you think that we would need a policy? Uh, in the first place in an organization. So
Good
anything.
morning, sir.
Good morning, Ayush.
So policy help us to implement good things in the right direction. Coordination will increase by making policy.
Okay, so what you're saying is definitely correct. But what other areas do you think? So one is definitely giving directions. What I feel, so what I can put it in a right word as is that these policies helps you drive compliances. You would have right things being done the right way, the way it is expected to be. So a lot of compliance can be driven around the policies. What other areas do you control via creating a policy? Anybody else? All right, so I let me help you. When we talk about creation of a policy, ideally you would need policy for primarily three reasons. One, you would want to have a, let's say, a process around something which is happening in your organization, and you would want to get it regulated. So the word is regulation. Okay, you drive a recruitment process. You can't have, unless you have a recruitment policy, then what will happen is there are 10 recruiters. I'm so sorry. Those 10 recruiters will follow their own style or their own methodology of dealing with recruitment as a process in your organization. So your first idea of putting a policy in place is to ideally to regulate the entire process, that everybody knows what's exactly to be done, how it is to be done, and when it is to be done. The second area that once you've created and created a regulation around those process is what Ayush said, that you would need to have things done in the right manner. Now, because you've already written a process, you know what are the do's and don'ts of a particular process. The second area you would look at that, however, the way it was created, is it being implemented? So the compliance becomes the second word. You will have to ensure that the entire process of whatever is written in the policy is being driven in that fashion, and everybody is complying to that entire process that is being mentioned out or spelled out in the policy. The third very important area is to basically control. So control in the sense that there'll be, so let's say when we talked about in the first step, we said that if 10 recruiters are not following a similar step, that could lead to various end results. So the primary objective, which boils down after every policy is being written and driven, is ideally to put certain controls, measures, and standard regulators in the organization to drive the entire process in the direction in which the organization wants that entire process to head to. and these processes gets driven from the way we actually look at the organization's vision, mission, your direction or your goals for next 5 years, and then you start redesigning your processes and policies and start thinking as to what and how can you facilitate your businesses in terms of driving your visions or missions, which is for, let's say, a 5 year, 10 year, whatever plans that the organization would make. Okay, so when you guys get this opportunity to, let's say, maybe develop a particular policy, there's a very systematic approach which is worldwide accepted in terms of policy creation. uh, the first step to the entire policy development part is you need to understand and establish a need. So why? I mean, unless you've answered that, why do you need a policy? Just because there's no recruitment process written there, and 10 different people are doing things 10 different ways just to have them doing a uniform thing. Do you need a policy for that? Or ideally, you need a recruitment policy because your recruitment policy spells out that how the organization sorts its talent, how the entire sourcing around the critical piece of talent is being done, how do we hire, and what kind of talent is being hired. So understand establishing a need is very important. Just so, uh, in the two examples that I gave, one where I said that, let's say, I have 10 people and 10 people doing a different process where I want to standardize it, that could also be a need. I'm not saying that that cannot be a need, but ideally you would need to understand the core of any policy to get to the entire process, because if you don't understand that what core is being addressed या आप वो policy क्यों बना रहे हैं, then it will become very difficult. And what happens is, in such cases, you start putting your efforts, and the moment it reaches to your approver's desk, you will have new recommendations coming in. Again, if you haven't aligned to the core, you will again have a lot of recommendations coming in. So ideally, the first step is that you should establish the need and move forward. So I'll be discussing all these steps one by one in different in the way they are to be taken care of. But let's look at all these steps. So one is, once you've established a need, the first step is to develop a content, have a draft ready. Then you when then once your draft is ready, what you do is you write, edit, rewrite, review by the key parties, approve, implement and communicate, and review further. Now let's start looking at each of them one after the other. So like I said, when you the need for the policy is to have a written recorded workplace, to have compliance and control across the organization, uniformity and standardization, employee rights and entitlements. So a lot of times the policies, let's say, be it whatever policy, the do's and don'ts of let's say a process, entitlement, or a system or anything is clearly spelled out in these policies, because the whole idea of creating a policy around these processes and entitlements and other areas that we create policies around is to set out the rights and entitlements of employees, that this is what is doable, this is what is acceptable, this is what is not acceptable, and this is what you're supposed to be complying on. Now, when you get on to the core job of developing a policy, understand in the first step of developing a policy, you start with developing its content. Now, having said that, like I said initially, that if you've not understood the core, that why do you want to create a policy, what will it address, what are the areas that you're expecting to change in the organization by, let's say, implementing this policy, unless that is being very clearly discussed, the policy draft content that you start putting in place may fall absolutely different, or let's say crossroads to the direction in which the motive of the organization or the MBO, or let's say the goals of the organizations are heading to. So that's very important for one person to before developing a tent, start understanding the need. Now, if you've understood the core and understood the need, what will happen is, for developing a content, you will do a lot of benchmarking. Let's say for whatever policy let's say you're making one right now for your organization, the first ideal process will be to understand what exactly, how do we do things in our current organization, what do we take care of. So you will document the content as the first place is your current as is. Now, this is how the entire process moves around the organization. Then you would start move out in the market to understand that how, let's say, so taking a classic example of the recruitment policy that I've been talking about till now, let's say how is our recruitment policy and what is that is happening in the market vis-a-vis what processes people follow, what are the compensation structures people look at, how are the grades and brands felt across the organization. Does the recruitment policy have a provision for internal job postings? So all that needs to be all comprehensively defined in the first draft or the content that you start putting in place. So unless that's the whole reason why everybody keeps specifying when it comes to policy, to understand the core and the need of the policy. So that's the first step, that you start assembling all the content. Once you've assembled all the content that you needed, what you do is you start putting all those information as a draft. All the gathered information within the organization is being translated into a draft. All the benchmarking exercise is being done, and you finally say that, okay, this is my current process, and this is how the next process or the new process should look like, and these are my reasons why I am putting it like this, and this is what I'm supposed to be expecting out of it. So your first draft of a policy gets ready. Now when that draft is ideally ready for review, before even you give it to the person who's going to review the policy, ideally the content creator, or let's say if you've been interested with the responsibility of coming up or creating up a recruitment policy, or for that matter any other policy, before even you give it to your, let's say even if you're giving it to your boss who's supposed to review it and find out what additionally it is areas are to be added and what gray areas are to be eliminated and things like that, it is very essential that this person who has created the first draft of the policy undergoes, writes it, edits it, rewrites it, in the sense that he makes deep contextual changes in the written document. By which we mean to say that the person puts everything in place. He's read the document, he's read the policy content in the fashion the way, let's say, a layman would read. Because ideally you are HR people, and when you start putting a, let's say, what happens if we start putting too much of jargons in the policy, so people from one specific domain or stream may understand, because that policy is more pertaining to them. So let's say when few areas of the policy might extend to some cross departments also. But then if those cross departments are reading it, will they be able to understand and comprehend? Because somebody which any abbreviation or any words that you use which are an internal to the process, if it is not defined in a layman manner, then what will happen is ideally the function who understand those terminologies will be able to comprehend the policy better, and the others would not be able to. So while you do this step, the first main aim of doing this step is to ideally eliminate such areas, words, or phrases that you use across in your policy, so that it is being comprehended by even a layman very easily, and even somebody who's, let's say, coming in as an external visitor or an auditor to review your policies, understands that what your policy is trying to spell out, and put a shack around it. So that's very important. It's the first step. Second is, while you will do a write, edit, and rewrite, you will also be able to find out a lot of gray areas. Let's say, so once you rewrite, the typical gray areas that happens while a policy creation is couple of grammatical errors, spelling mistakes. So that's the first thing that you screen out. The second thing while you screen out is as gray areas is, you might have written a process which is currently as is the same, and you've copied it the process similarly to what you are trying to create. So while rewriting, editing helps you to also eliminate such areas, and understand that whatever processes that you're putting around are 100% intact to and aligned to the goal, let's say the plans of the organization, for the reason by which this policy is being created. Also, you will be able to incorporate a lot of recommendations. So having read, what will you be able to do is, you will be able to say that these are certain changes in the existing policy that I've looked at, which are very mandatory in nature. If we make those small changes there in the policy, we may not have to, let's say, rewrite and review the entire policy in totality. So this step will basically help you to actually fine tune the content, the draft content or the draft policy that you have created for your reviewer. Now, what happens is, you, of course, once you've created a policy, it will certainly go for a review. So let's say if it is impacting your sales, you've created a sales incentive program or a sales incentive policy, then you will send the sales incentive policy for a review, ideally first with your business head, because the business head needs to understand that the policy which is which let's say HR has created in terms of how do we distribute incentives to our employees, what will be the nature, how will the entire modus operandi of this movement of incentives will take place across the sales team. So your business head who's sitting at the center and driving the entire sales team, who knows better how exactly a policy or a process should be and what should make it more easier and more facilitated across the organization than making it more complex for people and making it more difficult and miserable for people to feel sad about. So ideally your business heads are your first heads of review if it's a business function related policy. Once they have approved, of course, it moves on for a approval by the management, and then of course a legal review. Because let's say if a management approves a policy after reading it, and this policy is about let's say women sexual harassment at workplace. Now, what will happen is sexual harassment at workplace, maternity policy, all these, there are certain policies or practices that are being regulated by the government authorities. So then what happens is ideally you will have to have a legal review to understand that whatever processes that you are creating, it's good to have an additional process, which is fine. But let's say you should not miss on certain mandatory or statutory requirements which are clearly spelled out, let's say in a maternity policy or a sexual harassment policy guidelines that are being issued by the by the authorities of India to in terms of regulating the employment and employment exchanges across the organization. I mean across the country. So you will have to have a legal review to ensure that these areas are being met, understood, and we are not missing any idea or any fact that is being spelled out legally by the authorities across the country. So that's the reason why we have it reviewed. Now, once all your reviewers have reviewed the policy, you will ideally they put it for an approval with management. And the entire approval is being done. The first draft was reviewed. This is your final policy. And this is how it would look like. They would read. They would understand the entire policy, read it from their end again to understand if everything is making sense, and the management then gives you an approval to go ahead with the policy. Once you get an approval from the management saying that okay, whatever you're saying makes sense to me and I'm buying it, and I will so you maybe from tomorrow onwards, or let's say from whatever effective date, the process for recruitment will change and will stand as per defined in the new policy or whatever, however you would want to word it to people. Now the essential part is once the approval is taken and your policy document is ready. Now, how will you let the other people know that there's some change that has happened, and how now would be the new process like? So the next step that comes into picture is your implement and communication. So what you do is you start back planning in terms of, let's say if the date of launch is D plus 10, what you would do is you would start planning D minus 10 or maybe D minus 15 to have the doables of this policy being ideally implemented across the organizations and being communicated well to all the people. So before the date of implementation, you should know that to whom all should this policy reach out to, what all areas would it cover, who is responsible for its implementation, who will be just regulating it, and who is the person who's just a document keeper. So such areas are being implemented and ideally highlighted out. Now there could be various modes of communication that an organization could use to communicate a policy. So for example, one is the standard way is putting a emailer in the email of and be sending an email to all the employees. The other creative ways by which people have started looking at telling letting people know that these are new policies or new processes coming across the organization is through the HR newsletters. Another very fancy area that HRs have also developed in terms of having these communication done is a lot of times they run this HR help desk, which helps people to understand that what are the changes that have happened across the organization. There's a quick refresher on the policy, and the person is being told that these are the areas or these are policies that these are being changed, and what will be their impact. And this help desk helps the employee to guide and understand that whatever implementations are happening, what will be the result and what is the outcome of the same. The other area that by which you can implement and communicate is policy and training. So let's say if you've announced and you've also sent an email, you've put an help desk, everything is done. The next thing that you do is whenever you're having an induction program or whenever you're having a training program, you can always do a small refresher of the policies across the meetings or the discussions that you're having with the team to to ensure that these small refreshers of these policies, what do we practice, let's say what do we do in recruitment, how is our PMS system, what steps do we follow, all that is being reiterated like a small capsule after the training or before the training of whatever sessions that are being planned for. So these are the areas that how organizations plan to implement and communicate policies across to all the employees. Now once you do that, naturally you whenever you announce a policy, and let's say the policy says initially we had uh, Saturdays as a week off day, but given let's say the requirement of COVID situation or extra whatever, now people would have to maybe just to pitch in that extra effort that is being required, people might would have to work for Saturdays as well. Now a policy like that will certainly attract resistance from the employees. So your challenges are while you're creating a policy, you also need to think about your challenges. One, e- what is the kind of process that you're trying to create? Is it very employee centric or not? Will an employee be able to understand and comprehend whatever the policy is trying to tell this particular person about whatever, let's say, product process or a structure XYZ that is in question? So ideally, the first resistance that you face during a policy implementation is always the employees, because they would not understand what's the intention behind, why is it being done, and what will be achieved out of it. So in such cases, what happens is the first resistance from that you receive from any in across the implementation of a let's say in the implementation of a policy is ideally the resistance from the employees, their non-acceptability of let's say the entire policy or a chunk of policy or a particular clause that you have. So then you have to be mentally and ready with what all changes that you have made and why those changes have been made, and for what benefit does it derive from. The next resistance that you get is from management. So when I talked about a classic example of leaves, we could talk about employees to help you understand better. Now when I talk about management, let's talk about let's say an increase in the budget. So what's happening is, let's say you have decided that you would want to have a training center across the organization, on your own set, rather than having rather than having somebody who's running centers for you, or let's say to introduce or automate a complete training program across the training module or application, which can be used on anybody's mobile. So such areas which will, let's say, will require a lot of cost, revenue, expenditure to be spent out by the organization, you will see management will have the highest degree of resistance in such cases, because ideally management is so I'm not saying that they're not worried about human being, but the primary focus of the organization is, so when the CEO of an organization acts, it's not the CEO, but it's the organization that acts. So let's say tomorrow I've decided I would not be, due to COVID, I won't be paying my employees, means that it's not the CEO who's decided. So it's the entire management who's decided. He's just the implementer. So those kind of areas, cost related aspects, business process related aspects, you would have a lot of challenge coming in from the management. And then finally, the biggest challenge is, let's say if everything is right, the budget also fits well. It is from the employee point of view, it's also very friendly. Then the point is that people, just because they can't find a fault, they become very ignorant of the policy. They don't want to accept these policies and accept that okay, whatever is being written and being said is for our own good. So those areas are also being looked at and addressed while while looking at your challenges. Now, how do you address them? That's important part. So as HR professionals, when you will join your organizations, your respective organizations, and if you've been given this responsibility, understand the first area that you could ease out, which is when we talk about resistance from employees, is even before you start getting into making a policy which is around an employee process. So let's say a leave process where you're going to cut down leaves. Ideally, the idea is sorry. So ideally, the idea is that the employee, if let's say if you were supposed to make this policy and you went to let's say a couple of employees in one department and then few another department, and gathered certain information into the ways of, let's say, the things and affairs are being taken care of for a particular business or process, whatever for whatever your policy is being created. Doing such an exercise happens is so the employee gets to know that there's something that is being worked upon, and things will come up brighter and sharper. So then you will have a lesser resistance coming in from employee. Also, there's a flip side. Understand that once you start doing that too often, then people become very confident, and then employees feel that every time if I bring in this resistance, things will get changed. So that also sends a negative message. So we have to ensure that what are we picking up and what is that we are throwing at our employees' face. Finally, when you talk about the resistance from management, the challenge here that you mostly feel is, let's say, if the employee is being if you're asking too much of a money that is to be spent out of the management's profit budget, or the expenditure they might have would have accounted for some other official work which is more important than this, there's going to be a lot of resistance. So that also needs to be taken care of and addressed. So while at the challenging stage, we understand that there's a resistance from the employee management and the non-acceptability of the policy. If we start telling and walking through the management and letting them know that, okay, if you invest in X amount in this particular process, which you feel today is a lot of an investment that's happening at a company's end, look at 5 years down the line what results it is going to bring in. I'm sure when we start talking like that, or we start putting things like that, management also starts looking at the amount of effort, energy, thought process that is being spent on these topics, to ensure that finally they might look at a loss in the current scenario, but in the scenarios to be, things would seem to be very better and efficient and moving. Now, once all of that is done, what happens is you do a review and a further update. So, like I said, now the entire draft is ready, your entire implementation channel is ready. What you do is you quickly get it reviewed, modified, and signed by the approvers. So let's say if it is a policy on social media, so the marketing team would sign it and put a policy around it and will be the owner of the document. So once that is being done, let's say a draft is being drafted, the legal department is being sent those drafts to look at the legality of the policy, so that there's no any legal issues that are being arising of these policies uh, across, while you are doing a review, or let's say a comprehending of the policy, or while an auditor comes to your organization and is reviewing your current process versus the way it has been actually implemented. So those areas those areas are being eliminated while you do a review and a further update. So modification of policies is as per business needs. So what happens is, not because you've created a policy, you've communicated, you've overcome your challenges, now you've won the world and you would not be looking at things further. So ideally, what happens is, over a period of time, a policy gets obsolete. So you will have to look at what area or what part of the policy is gone obsolete. What are the new trends that have come into the market? How can I put my policy up to date, and how can I keep it moving forward? So then, in such cases, you would continuously seek out to people who are looking at this particular subject on which you are focusing on, and is also ready to support you in terms of looking at your other personal requirements as well. So these areas are to be looked at, reviewed, eliminated, and after 3 years, 4 years, when those processes become a little obsolete, we get a new process in place, so that we are still abreast with the latest time or with the latest areas that we are doing and doing forward. So that's how you create a policy across the organization. The process might sound very simple, but it takes a lot of time for people to actually think through, create, get it reviewed, get them signed, take everybody's buy-in, and once the buy-in comes in, and then you go in for a first draft approval, because if you go before the buy-in from, let's say, even one business manager or one business head who was left behind, you will have a lot of scene coming across your way. So that's where we have to ensure that we or the entire team moves together. All that area is being taken care of, because if we miss on these areas, this is going to eventually create a lot of problem for business and bottlenecks for the growth of the business. So that's how you continuously keep updating policies and looking at it. And आप हर policies के timelines होते हैं. So a PMS policy may not change over a very longer period of time. But let's say a recruitment process might change, let's say in a 3 year or a 5 year process. Likewise, a training process may change even more rapidly. So every 6 months, you may find a change happening in your training policies or training procedures. So which is what we are talking about, that we should keep abreast and keep our policy documents continuously updated. So with this, I come to the end of the session. Now, even before I get down to your questions, I would quickly want to show you guys a policy document that I might have created. It'll help you understand. So I'm showing you a final draft. Of course, I'm not showing the first draft or I'm talking about it. But I'm just going to help you understand how. I'm sure you must have seen some documents, but the documents that I want to show will have an additional areas that could help you understand a little better, things a little better. Mm, HR policies. Okay, let's look at accident on duty as a policy. So ideally understand that when you start creating a policy and you start putting a content, the first page is basically your document title. So it will cover all the essential areas like a document name. What's so this document name is accident on policy accident on duty policy. So now you know that this policy paper the paper that you're reading in is accident on duty ka policy. You also specify the current versions, because if you already have an existing one and if you've made changes to the existing one, then you would always reissue it as a version 2. Effective date, who's the process owner, who's approved this policy, if there are any revisions that have happened, are those revisions captured here? So a revision history column also becomes very essential while creation of a policy document or a policy area. Now, some areas that you start, so look at, you define the objective, you define the scope, you look at definition, and what all areas are so let's say you talk about accident on duty, but who would know what actually accident on duty means? So you start defining, start putting definitions, so that once the person is reading and such areas or such words will come their way, they know what are we actually talking about. Then we also talk about our procedures. So what is that we would do in case let's say if there's an accident on duty, so what procedures or what guidelines are to be followed are being listed here. And then if any such incidents happen, how is the record keeping being made? So I'm not saying these are standard title areas. I'm just trying to tell you that these policies are just being thought through from the process of whatever we're trying to address. So what are we trying to address is, if an accident on duty happens, what do we do? One, what do we do in that emergency situation? Two, how do we facilitate the employee who's being injured? And three, what are his entitlements if there's any accident on duty? So any policy All right. Hello. So, guys, that was my that I have completed my session. If you have any questions for me, you can always ask. Anybody from this team of 21 odd people, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, so good morning.
Yes, please,
So,
Ayush.
so I have a question that whether always strict policy which are developed by company leads to the growth of the company. Initially, if a company sees that their policies are good at the initial state, but they want to continue with their policies, so this will help to the growth of the company or not?
See, Ayush, understand that every policy that you create is not ideally linked to the growth of the organization. What happens is the organization creates is looking at a, let's say, whatever term plan, 5 year, 10 year, 20 years. Now, when you start reviewing it, what you start looking at is, let's say today, if you start creating a process, अगर आज आप एक process या policy बनाना शुरू करते हो, you would not create a policy thinking about the scenario now. You would start thinking that if I am going to be, so let's say today I am a 1,000 odd people organization. Tomorrow, with the quantum of business and the way we are growing, my business might reach to a level where I might would require, let's say, 5,000 people. So when I create a process for recruitment, I cannot create a process of recruitment thinking that how do I do, a hiring of 1,000 odd people. I would think about how will my process be created that it can address the future need of hiring 5,000 people in an efficient, effective manner, and also timelinessly keeping the timelines intact and keeping that focus there, because you would all recruiters have a turnaround time. So sometimes you create, even if you're creating a policy to regulate or let's say to standardize a process, eventually it is leading into the growth or the development of the organization. Now that you do a policy, or so there are certain policies which lead to an immediate impact. Let's say if you don't have a PMS system, or implementation of a new PMS system leads to an immediate impact. But let's say when I'm talking about a change in the recruitment process, this change or this policy will not bring an immediate impact in the in the organization. Have I answered?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ayush. Any other questions? All right, well then, thank you so much. I am just putting in my address in the message window. You guys can have my email ID and can reach out to me for any of your queries that you would want to direct them to me. The ID is ravi.yadav@creambell.com. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.